Hi, Reuben. Welcome to the Accountants Exposed podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me on here.
Look, I'll start by saying how much I admire what you've achieved in such a short period of time. The structure, the model, the level of growth. And look, for the benefit of everyone, can you share a little bit about your journey, sort of where you were before you went out on your own and where you are now?
Sure. So, I've grown up on the Gold Coast and I've pretty much lived here my whole life. I started my accounting career actually it was my godfather's public accounting practice, but it was just him in his garage. And that's where I started learning the ropes. So he would make me sort out all the BAS statements and put them in order. And it was a very old school atmosphere where he would have handy soft and we'd be exchanging floppy disks to each other. That's how old it was. So that's where I started from.
Is that when you were still at uni, or
that was when I was still at uni. So basically,
Okay.
yeah, and then that's what I thought accounting was. I thought it was, man, we're going to be exchanging floppy disks forever, and we'd be saving it on there and uploading it, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But
I'm surprised you because you're pretty young as well. And you would have started what? You were uni 10 years ago. I'm surprised there were floppy disks back then.
Oh, he was a very old school accountant, a very, very old school accountant. Most of my days would be sorting through floppy disks, BAS statements, and check butts. Basically, that's what it was. And I was like, I said to myself, is this what accounting is going to be like forever?
Did you go back to your career counselor and go, can I do another course, please?
Yeah, well, nearly. I was close to it, but luckily enough, I did change into a sort of. It was still a boutique practice, and that's where I learned most of my accounting skills as such. I was there for roughly about 6.5 years. And from graduating, I started there and worked my way up to basically a client manager within that 6 years. And that was my accounting clear. Public accounting, I haven't done any auditing or anything like that. So basically, taxes, business services. Yeah.
What made you go out on your own? You were doing well, you progressed manager, in a good time frame.
I think it was a couple of things. It was the perfect storm. It was around 2016, I think it was, when cloud accounting it started to, in my mind, become very apparent that it was needed in the world. Quickbooks Online actually approached us, which was, at the time, very small. They were just starting in Australia. And they asked me to come along and do a roadshow with them and basically talk about accounting and talk about the software and talk about cloud-based systems. And behind that, they kept asking me, well, why don't you just do your own thing? At that time, I was also reading a book by Rob Nixon, just inevitably. And I was reading all of these things in there saying, well, there's more to accounting than what it should be. Now, don't get me wrong. The firm that I was at was it was an amazing firm, but very much traditional. And
how big was the firm when you were there?
It was a 3-partner firm when I first started. There was probably about 40 staff, 40 to 50 staff, I'd say.
So it's not a tiny firm. It's a large firm for the Gold Coast.
Yeah, and it ended up having some of the partners create their own firms. There was a bit of a split in there. And when I left, there was probably about 15 of us in that team. But I guess the major catalyst was that I felt like I was in a time where we didn't need servers and we didn't need all that initial capital, and it wasn't a huge risk at that point in time in my life to say, well, I can have a stab at this. I think I can change it. I think I can do it better. I think I can run a business. And if I don't, and if I fail, I'll come back and
it's easy to get a job again. You always have a job with 5-6 years experience under your belt.
Yeah, and that's how it sort of happened. And I actually started off the new wave business as a bookkeeping business, and that was sort of my entry point because I was 25 at the time trying to get my own clients. It was very difficult. The trust wasn't there, so I try and win their clients' trust with bookkeeping first, and then
because it's easier, right? Because there's a different standard, isn't there? When
and look, and don't get me wrong, bookkeepers are very important in the world, but I think the perception from clients is that accountants, they
know tax,
correct,
they know legislation, and they can give you structure advice. So a bookkeeper can just do the basic bookkeeping, like putting numbers into a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I can see that. Were you doing the bookkeeping business on the side while you were working as a manager, or did you?
Yeah, I was. I did tell my the partner at the time. I said, look, this is the way I would like to try and get some clients in, and I'll go out there. And most of my clients came from the gym, so I would just approach clients. Yeah, I still have a lot of those clients today, where we'd be doing bicep curls, and I just start having a chat about what do they do, their businesses, and if they needed a bookkeeper. That's how it started.
Wow. So were your biceps growing as quickly as the bookkeeping business?
Oh, I don't think so, but yeah, it was a good way, a good avenue. Maybe I asked for some bicep curl tips first, and then got into the business side.
I like a golden tip for everyone. Pretty hard in Sydney right now with the lockdown. No gyms are open.
Oh,
That's
I
it.
heard.
Business activity is finished. But how did the partners react? Like, was it the bookkeeping business was part of the firm, or was it kind of
No,
your thing on the side? And
they were yeah, they were
they were
my
okay with it.
clients. They were okay with it as long as obviously I was still meeting my targets and what I needed to do in the accounting practice. I was very transparent on that side on what I was doing. But I think at that point where I decided that I think I'm going to give it a go. And to be honest, when I went out, I was in it to create a bookkeeping practice because I thought I could grow that bookkeeping practice quite large.
And that was your vision, basically being a bookkeeper.
That's right. It was.
Wow.
I didn't even think about getting my tax agent license at the time. It was BAS agent license, and I wanted to grow and scale a bookkeeping practice. And it was, I don't know, maybe 8 to 12 months in when I thought, well, why can't I do both? It's possible to do both, and that's what we
did. You go back to your previous partners and get them to sign off on the TPB?
Yes, correct. Yes,
and they were okay with it.
They were fine. The agreement was always, the clients that you brought in, and he was very nice about it. The clients that you brought in, they're yours, basically.
Okay.
And there wasn't much. There was only a handful of clients that I think, I don't know, 20 to 30K worth of clients that
compliance. Clients.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you just gave them to you to keep.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
It's either
generous.
well, it's either they will probably leave anyway, as long as I didn't take any clients that were there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was very nice about that.
You know the bookkeeping clients that you got while you were doing your bicep curls and squats and everything else. Were they clients that had a bookkeeper beforehand, or were they doing their own bookkeeping and then you like, hey, I can do it for you. I'll take it off your hands.
Probably a little bit of both. A lot of the clients at that time I found were clients that were just in their early stages of business.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they were okay to
because
I
guess they didn't know what to do at that point in time. They might have only been doing business for 6 months, a year or 2 years, and it was still sort of that foundational stage where they needed to get things sorted. And I was there showing them cloud accounting, basically.
So you set them up on Xero?
At the time, because I was Quickbooks affiliated,
Quickbooks,
we everything was on QuickBooks back then.
How long did that last for?
It lasted maybe a couple of years, I would say, and then now we're predominantly Xero.
What made you switch, by the way?
Processes. Internal processes. We found that's the ecosystem for Xero and what we wanted to do in terms of our systems, procedures, streamlining, innovation, and so forth. It works better with Xero for us, and that's probably not for everyone, but for us, it just allowed us to really streamline the process. We're finding that if we do have QuickBooks and Xero for clients, we're still agnostic, but in a sense, if we had to recommend a software, it would be Xero. A lot of our clients, their e-commerce businesses and the integrations we're finding is a lot more streamlined as well.
Yeah, there's hardly anyone on QuickBooks. To be honest, I barely ever hear the name these days. That's how dominant Xero is. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. And even in the US, Xero is starting to make a bit of a lot of traction there, even though QuickBooks Online is the dominating force there. But Xero is our predominant software. We've actually just this year we reached platinum, and that's after having majority of our clients on QuickBooks.
What does that give you? Because I always see that on accounting firms, platinum gold, like we got platinum. Like, what is that? What do you get by reaching platinum? Out of curiosity.
You get I guess you get a bit more support through having certain people I guess, managers, and you also get higher discounts on the actual subscription. So you do
that
get
you
high.
pass on to your clients,
We
or do you
we
keep
we
the
do
margin?
we do pass it on, but I know a lot of firms will keep the margin as well. So I think
Got
it's
you.
25 or 30%.
Extra discount
Mm,
by reaching platinum. Got you.
yes.
Okay, so it's significant. It's a solid margin.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it's
so
handy to have.
so you got your bookkeeping business, you're growing that. And did you go out to like clients' premises, or you did everything online and they just got them to connect their bank accounts and, set them up with proper online processes and just do everything in your own time from home
Yeah, basically, I wanted every single client to be on a cloud-based system. I
for
didn't want
everything, for their whole business, basically?
basically everything. If they didn't sort of fall within that criteria,
Yeah,
I would try to steer away from them. Obviously, beggars can't be choosers at that point in time in business,
yeah,
and I was still taking on clients, but majority of the clients were cloud-based.
okay.
We'd be setting them up. We'd be doing the bookkeeping from home. If we needed to request for information, that's when Receipt Bank started coming in as well. And yeah,
Hmm.
that's what we did.
Okay, how much would one client be worth in bookkeeping?
Back then,
Yeah.
it was very cheap. That's something that I've learnt over time. I remember I was doing some bookkeeping for, like $150, $200 a month.
That's okay. It's not too
And
bad.
it was some were quite large and restaurants, and they had multiple. I was doing payroll as well, and all these things just to get them on board. But I think that's sort of what you have to do at the start.
You
just
have
to
to do it, yeah.
Yeah. Now we're very
Okay.
picky and choosy with the clients that we take on, and the pricing, and we have a very structured model for pricing and so forth.
And you don't give them workout tips anymore if they're not online either.
No, that's right.
Okay, so Reuben, so back to that. So you're 8 months into it, 10 months into it, you've kind of you've gone, hey, look, got the bookkeeping, it's slowly growing, but there's probably demand for tax and compliance from the bookkeeping guys. Let's offer that. You get a tax registration license. What happens then? Because and just like for everyone, how big are you now in terms of staff and fees?
Yeah, so we do run a multidisciplinary firm at the moment, but if we just focus on the accounting side, we're sitting at around 27 staff, I believe, at the moment.
Yeah.
Next 12 months, we're aiming between 3 to 4 million in fees.
Yeah. And how big were you last year?
Last year, we did 2.5 million in fees. So our goal is to grow just over that million a year.
A year, which is, like, so 80 to 90% growth.
Mm.
And you probably, so you doubled in size essentially in the last 2 years, both in staff and fees.
Correct. That's
roughly,
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just to highlight to everyone kind of what's possible. Like, you've gone from bookkeeping at the gym to, 3+ million fees in 5-6 years.
5 years. Yes.
5 years,
Correct.
phenomenal. So you left a firm that had essentially 30-40 staff and was crumbling to now basically exceeding that yourself in a short period of time. And that would have been a very established firm.
Correct. I think they were a 40-year-old firm, probably, I would say.
Yeah. So it just shows like how much is possible for someone that has a slightly different way of thinking about it and different approach. And I wanted to understand, like, when you first started, because, and by the way, for everyone, this is all organic growth, right?
Mm-hmm. This is all organic growth.
Yeah, you didn't buy any fees, didn't acquire anyone.
No investors, no partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Started at the age of 25, etc.
Yes, it was purely just the hard work and effort and a bit of innovation.
Tell me about the credibility part, because like as a 25, 26-year-old,
yes,
as you said, you're competing against a typical 45-year-old, partner at an established practice, been doing it for 20 years. How do you get that trust and credibility for a client?
I think at that stage it was about the value that they perceived. I just tried to do things over and above what a normal accountant would do. Instead of meeting once a year, I would be communicating a lot more, touching base a lot more, going over and above with any strategy that I had,
Mm-hmm.
and really giving them that confidence that the outcome that we're getting here is superior to what you had before in a traditional.
But how do you get
practice.
them to move in the first place?
How do I
That's
get them
the
to move?
hard part. Yeah, because they're sticky.
Yes.
Accounting clients are sticky.
Yeah. So my passion, and if I was not an accountant, I'd be a salesman and a marketer. I read and listen to books about how to close, how to speak to clients.
What's your Bible? What's your go-to Bible?
Oh, I've got so many. I love listening at the moment. I love listening to any podcast in the digital marketing space because because the funnels that they create at the moment, and this is marketing, but it's a lot about the content and how the users perceive what the content is telling them. So at the moment, I listen to a guy named Ezra Firestone, and it has nothing to do with accounting. He's an e-commerce genius, and he's very good at funnels. I listen to people like Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. Those are the type of, I guess, innovative aspects that I like to bring in that accounting practices don't do. And obviously, I've read Rob Nixon books. I've listened to Ed Chan and the Wise mentoring side of it all. But anything that I think that it will assist me in improving my conversion rate, I'll do it. Go Proposal is a great one too. He's very good at articulating value.
I think you mentioned that to me, when we first spoke. So back to sort of that journey. When you first started, you focused on offering more value. But how do you get someone to switch from their current accountant?
I guess at that point, it was a little bit of fake it until you make it as well, in the sense that I just had to show them the value in the service, in that I'm going to offer them more. And a lot of them,
did you package it up?
I packaged it up. Basically, yes. I was offering packages, monthly packages, showing all the value that comes with that over and above what they would usually get. I straight away,
3-tier kind of thing, or
hourly rates is what I didn't do. But back then I was doing the 3 tiers. Here's your bronze, silver, and gold, and then here's everything you're going to get. I'm going to be there, etc., etc. And it was just trying to sell it. It took a while to do it,
and it was just you, right?
It was just myself. Yeah. It was just
how do you split the time between marketing, strategizing, and actually doing the work and delivering, especially when you're trying to over-deliver?
In the early stages, there was a lot of work, overtime work, weekends. I'd see clients after 5 o'clock, because obviously if I was starting back then trying to find clients whilst I was still working a full-time job, it was just one of those aspects that if I put in the effort now, it's a short-term pain for long-term gain. That's the way I always think. Invest
especially
now
in accounting,
for the
you actually get equity. That's the beauty of your business. It's recurring versus any other sales. Usually it's once off and that's it. You're basically focusing on the offering them a better service and a lot more in that service. What sort of stuff were you offering them that they wouldn't normally get from their traditional, what you call a traditional accountant?
Sure. Well, most of the clients from the firm I came with, it would be a once a year meet with the client, maybe see them when they're preparing BASs, but it was very much reactive advice. So I wanted to not only do their bookkeeping, but I also wanted to catch up with them and provide them cash flow projections, advisory. We're early adopter of Fathom and so forth, and making sure that they're starting to plan ahead. I'm trying to navigate and estimate what their tax would be going forward and just give them something that they've never felt before.
Okay. Did you charge more for that than the traditional accountant would, or were you packaging it up saying I can deliver this much but for less or for the same, or what was your approach?
The tax side of it would probably be on par, a little bit less, because I was trying to beat them there, but then I would package in the advisory within that. It still wasn't enough, to be honest. It was very, very low pricing at that point, and they were getting a lot of advice for a very little price. Yeah.
What was it like to then increase the prices over time? Because as you realize, you do have to lift them.
Yes.
Did you lose clients when you had to lift the prices?
Oh, of course. Yes. This year was our biggest uplift ever. So we had a project where we needed to uplift a lot of those original clients. And we did that by sending out a very structured proposal with an explanation through a Go proposal. Everything was very structured, but also followed up by a phone call to explain to them why we are doing this in the first place. Now, not everyone loved it, but in saying that, I would say it would have been a 95% success rate with 5% maybe leaving.
Okay, so it's not too bad. And what was the price increase for most of them on average for the
Um,
year?
it was different for a lot of clients, but to give you an example, our uplift, I think our uplift, we ended up increasing our
I love
overall
the term
revenue.
uplift, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's not my term. That's actually a slipstream. One of our coaches, that's their term. But I think it was roughly about $300,000 we uplifted from this one project that we did. It was a
Okay,
very good outcome in a sense. So we may have lost a couple of clients, but that was net. So it was a very, very great outcome for us because it meant less clients, more
better
revenue, better
service. Yeah.
service, and it just works out to be less stress for the staff as well.
Did you have to get on the phone with them individually and go, look, I know we go back to the gym days, but like, things have changed.
Yeah, we did. A lot of the clients, we had to sit down with them and explain it to them because obviously, as an original client, they probably feel as though they are owed something in a sense.
Hmm.
But look, with a bit of explanation, I think that's where accountants get scared is not getting on the phone and just explaining your value because I truly believe that every accountant is probably worth more than what they're charging at the moment.
How do you explain it though? Because it's like, Ruben, you've been providing me the same service, but you want to charge me like double now. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, a lot of it's probably around size and complexity. And we also are very transparent in saying, look, over the last few years, you have been getting a very, very amazing price. And to be honest, we've probably been undercharging you, but we're not going to make you pay for that, for all of the free service that you have received. But going
Hmm.
forward, we can't keep going this way. And a lot of them will
Yeah.
understand that. And that simple conversation will allow us to give them a better service. I feel as though a lot of accountants, they don't speak up and then they start to resent the clients that aren't paying enough, although they have never
Hmm.
spoken to them at all. So
Why is that? Why do they do that?
fear, I would say it's fear.
Because of fear of losing the client?
Fear of losing the client as well as fear of basically trying
Confrontation.
confrontation. That's
Yeah,
exactly
no
it.
one likes
No one likes.
confrontation, right?
We're all introverts as accountants. We're supposed to be, and
Yeah.
it's very hard. Selling a client in the first instance is hard, and then telling them that you now need to charge them more is even harder.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And I think the beauty, and we'll get to it later, but like you developed a business which is focused a lot on digital marketing. And I think you told me you get like 180 leads, whether it's a day, a week, a month. I can't remember
it's for
the
the last 2 months. It's 108. We've had 180 leads come in over a 2 month period.
2 month period.
Yes,
Yeah. And I think that's where the fear disappears, right? Because you don't have that scarcity mentality anymore. You're like, well, if we lose a few clients, it's not a big deal. Because we've got 180 leads and you told me you got a 30% conversion rate, that's a lot of clients coming in. So if we lose a couple, we're still growing. We're still getting a million plus. Okay, plus minus 10 grand, who cares?
that's exactly right. Yeah,
Um,
and that's what I
yeah,
wanted to
and that,
create from the start is not being restricted or bound by clients because we shouldn't be as a
yeah.
business, just like any other business. It should be coming in consistently, and that shouldn't be the major risk.
Did you feel like you were already knowledgeable in everything after like 5, 6 years? Is that like enough time to be able to handle any client? Or is it just like you can only get up to a certain level of complexity and then you have to, go to a specialist?
I think I was very fortunate in the firm that I was in that we were thrown in the deep end very, very early in our careers. So, I like to compare that firm with your big four and so forth, where they'll only touch business tax returns after a certain amount of
Mm,
time and so forth. I was thrown in from the start, and a lot of great businesses that have come out of that are on the Gold Coast now have started from that firm because of the fact
mm.
that their training and what they I guess encouraged their staff to do is far beyond I think any other firm, and that's something that I'm truly grateful for because I did learn a lot in a very short amount of time. I was seeing clients, I was doing structuring, CGT, pretty much everything that you could throw at me. I was doing it at that point in time, and I think that's what gave me the confidence as well at that age of 25 to say, well, I think I can do this. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
taking on McDonald's franchises and saying that I can do it, but I knew my limits. So I had to develop my own sort of small business niche that I could deliver.
And what was that niche for you?
Basically, at the start, I was aiming for startups, any startups that
Okay.
just needed that initial, because anything I would tell them that's innovative and made sense in terms of what they needed for a great foundation in a business, they found value in that. Now, if I were to do that with a $10 million, $20 million business, I don't think I would have lasted very long. So I knew my boundaries, and then I slowly grew my confidence from there, to start taking on staff that were smarter than me, knew more than me, because that's the way you grow a business. And we eventually, we deal with bigger clients, a lot bigger clients now as well.
Okay. And most of like, I'm trying to, what was the point that it really took off? Like, like usually businesses kind of go flat, and then something happens that it takes off. What was that something for you?
I think the point where it did take off is when we really honed in on that digital marketing strategy. With any business that wants to grow and scale, I think you need to have a very, very strong sales and marketing presence. Doesn't matter what business you are, and if you can get that right, then you don't rely or fear that you won't have any clients anymore. And I think when I had that, I said to myself, well, if this is the case, then all I need to do is structure every other aspect of the business well, and then we scale.
Okay.
So
and when did that happen?
I would say probably 2 years in.
Okay. 2 years into a new wave, right?
Correct. 2 years into a new wave.
Were you still by yourself, or was it with someone?
At that point, probably after 2 years, there were probably about 5 of us, I'd say. We were still growing.
Wow.
We were still growing at a fairly good pace. And that was from me doing a lot of networking grunt work. So I would be out there. I did bring on a business partner, and she would be handling all of the operations and the internal side of the business, and I would be out there just networking and trying to get as many clients as possible.
So was she doing the work as well and managing the workflow?
Yeah, she was managing workflow. She was doing the reviews, seeing clients as well to go over the results. But we also did have a small team. I think at that time, maybe there was only 4 of us actually, another bookkeeper and a junior accountant.
How long or how much into the business did you hire your first staff member?
How long till we hired? So my business partner came on 8 months, I believe, after I started, and you
knew her from the
we worked
firm.
together. So the trust was.
How did you convince her to come along and go, look, I've got this amazing bookkeeping business, come?
I guess it was the same, basically what I was saying at the start of the podcast, and that why not? Why not give it a go? We have the knowledge. We are in a time where disruption is necessary and is probably ripe to pick. Let's give it a go. And what's the worst that could happen? We work well together. If we fail,
was she a manager as well?
Correct. She was a manager as well.
Okay. Was the client size big enough to sustain 2 solid salaries?
No.
Equivalent salaries? No, right?
No.
So then
we were running. We were scraping the barrel a lot, and we said to ourselves, and we're going to pay ourselves $400 a week each if we can, until we can do this. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
What made her trust in that process? Because she has, I think she was older than you as well, right? She had a family.
Oh no, she's younger. She's younger than
she's younger.
1 year younger than myself, and she didn't have a family back then. To be honest, I don't know why she trusted me. I'm very lucky that she did, because it wouldn't be here today without her, in a sense, because we worked.
And you became equal partners?
Correct. We were equal partners at that time. And then there was a point where she ran her own firm, so there was a bit of a fork where her idea wasn't to grow it at scale as fast as she was content, in a sense. And I want to grow. I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to be different and disrupt and do those other things. So we just said, look, you run your team, I'll run my team, still under the New Wave brand. And then we'll go from there. But it was just, I think a year or so ago, 2 years ago, she had her first child and decided that she just wanted to leave the industry completely.
Wow. But you said she's still part of your organization, no?
No. Perry's not. She's not there in the organization anymore. But we still catch up and talk and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who runs your operations now, I guess?
I'm trying to really build this into a a business where there is a team, a leadership team that runs each section of the business.
Because you need that, right? Like for scaling, you need the
100%.
systems, you need the leadership.
Yeah, I think where most traditional accounting businesses fail is that you'll have multiple partners who all want to do the same thing, that all have the same, who all have different visions, and there is no alignment in there. Everyone's the marketer, everyone's the operations, everyone's the practice manager, and
it's not really run like a business.
No, not at all. And I think that to be successful, each section, whether it's your people, your data, your processing, your marketing, each section needs to have someone that runs that and is accountable for that. So in our business, my wife, she's an accountant as well, and she runs the CFO side, and basically she's the CFO, COO, if we put titles on there. I would be more the vision and marketing and sales. And we have a practice manager who is an absolute beast of a practice manager, and she runs all of our processes internally, technology, and we work very well. We will down the track want to build an actual C-suite team that has that accountability.
Did you? I guess when you started, what you were saying, like scraping the bottom of the barrel, was your strategy to reinvest as much as possible, and as soon as you could afford a staff member, you would get a staff member, even though it wouldn't be that profitable for you?
That's right. I always, that is where I think that if we did it again, I wouldn't do it any differently. I would still pay myself that very minimal wage, and everything else would be reinvested into marketing, reinvested into people, reinvesting into our systems and processes.
How long before you started paying yourself a decent salary then? Taking money out of the business?
I'd say 2 years, probably 2 years.
Okay. Where you got to the same salary as you were as a manager in the previous firm?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I would say, it would slowly go up. But our mindset was a little as possible. If we don't need it, I don't need to go on fancy trips or buy nice things. I can do that later. It was all business, because I understand in my mind that business is probably the highest return and investment that you could probably have if you can get it right.
Yeah. And it's a hard mentality, because like I know in my businesses I've struggled. Like I know technically you should reinvest in it, but then there's but I could increase the profit and like have way more profit for myself. And it's just having that little mental, battle.
Yes.
So I admire the fact that you and other businesses that I know that have grown quickly and scaled is usually because they constantly reinvest versus just keeping the dollars in the bank account or for their own wealth, and then turns them into more of a lifestyle business, I guess.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it was very difficult, but I think one of the advantages I had on my side is that I was young. My partner, who's now my wife, we didn't have kids. We didn't have a mortgage at that point in time, I believe. We did have a property that we sold, and the risk was very, very low. So I think that's what really drove us as well. Confidence.
What's it like working with your wife?
It can be difficult, but I think we set boundaries. Boundaries is the number one thing with working with your partner. As much as we see each other every day, and then we see each other at home, at work. She's CFO, she is CEO. I cannot trump her unless she doesn't reach her accountability points, her KPIs and so forth. Same goes the other way. Yeah.
So she has KPIs. Do you have KPIs?
Yeah, we all have our jobs. We all have our our roles, and we try to define that as much as possible. Every now and again, it slips, and she wins every now and again. Well, a lot of the time, but we try to keep it as separate as possible. So if it's vision that we're going down on what services, products we're going to deliver, then that's up to me. And how fast we want to go, that's up to me.
Is it a good thing that you guys work together? Like, I don't know whose idea it was.
Yeah, I personally think I don't think we could have scaled as much without her.
Okay.
Definitely
Why
not.
is that?
I'm very much a visionary. She's an implementer. So I think
it's important.
Yes.
You have to have a doer, right? So she's a doer.
She's a doer. So for me, I would just be probably thinking about all the great things that we could do. And 5 years down the track, I'm probably still thinking where she will get down and dirty and do it.
And she joined you like 2 years into it as well?
Yeah, basically 2.5, I'd say, years. She's last 2 years, 2.5 years. Yeah, I'd say about 2.5 years.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Um, and in terms of like the marketing that you were doing, and like you said, a lot of grunt work, a lot of networking for your client acquisition before you turned on the digital marketing tab.
Yes.
What did that look like? Or was it just a lot of gym memberships?
Well, gym
You know,
membership was probably, I tell you, it was a high converting, a lot of leads came from the gym.
you were doing a lot of workouts. You had 5 different memberships, right? You know, five to six, I was a fitness first.
Yes.
6 to 7, I was at Anytime. 7 to 8, I was a F45.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it. But that was one part of it. But then I tried BNI. I tried, all these commerce groups, and I tried starting
on Facebook or like
meetup groups. I tried meetup groups.
Yeah.
I tried starting my own meetup groups. I just kept going and
So the traditional methods
traditional
that accountants
methods.
choose.
Lunch,
Yeah.
if I could afford it, I'll try to take someone out to lunch if I could. Mostly McDonald's. That's the only thing I could afford back then. So
Did you really take on the Shopper Dockers?
No.
2 Big Macs for one?
Which they paid
I love
for.
that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, the traditional methods and trying to gain and build relationships. But it was difficult. It was very difficult.
What was the most, well, but it worked though, right? So the traditional way does work, obviously.
It does work, but it's very grueling and it's very time consuming, and a lot of your self-investment needs to go in there. And I feel as though if you do that a lot, that's what you're focusing on majority of your time, and it's hard to work on the business because you're constantly out there trying to find the replacement or a new client or whatever it may be.
Well, what was the biggest one for you, like in terms of conversion, or the one that worked the best? Was it BNI? Was it,
the gym?
Something else?
The gym was the best.
Really? Okay.
Nothing beats the gym.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you just literally approach people and go, "Hey, by the way, you're like nice biceps. What do you do?"
Yeah, well, I guess I wouldn't say nice biceps. I'd probably say nice calves. But I would.
Do you come here often?
I guess I would see them every morning because people that go to the gym are in routine, and then you'll see them every day, and eventually you'll say hi to them. And my approach was slow and just to understand them, get to understand them, and I'll tiptoe around the actual business side until finally I figure out what they do.
Obviously, not everyone would have a business as well.
No.
Like, it's only a small percentage that would have a business.
No. Yeah, that's right. However, they might have friends that have businesses or so forth. But the ones that did have businesses, my strategy was always ask the right questions to find a pain point that they have. They might say, my accountant, I paid so much in tax. And so then I would say back to them, hold on, have you heard of this thing called tax planning? Where we sit down before end of financial year and we do this and I can get you this. And I go, I do that all the time. And they will be like, let's organize a meeting. And that's my strategy, and it's always been my strategy. Fix the pain points.
And what would be the conversion rate for that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the conversion rate would be, but we did pretty well we got enough from the gym.
And then you decided, I guess, somewhere you read a book, or I don't know. How did the whole digital marketing start for you?
I think digital marketing for me, it started with the e-commerce space. I saw that the e-commerce space was just disrupting like crazy the traditional business method, and that they could run a business purely through Facebook ads and purely through Google ads and get so much in with minimal effort in a sense. There's effort, but you're not going out there and trying to knock on doors. And
no, it's crazy, especially when Facebook and Google ads were cheap. Like
exactly, that's
10 years ago, even 5 years ago, they were cheap.
That's right. And then what I thought was, why aren't accountants doing this? And every single answer I heard, I asked other accountants, and I asked my boss, and why aren't people doing this? Because marketing doesn't work. That's what they would always say. And I'm always one that will want to prove someone wrong, in a sense. So that, accompanied by the e-commerce era, and also then starting to listen to and read books about funnels and conversions and Facebook ads, and that just ignited a really big fire in me to figure it out.
And you did it by yourself?
I did it all by myself, yeah.
ClickFunnels and Facebook ads.
Everything. I've tried everything. I try to learn SEO, and I've done all the courses. So I'm not an expert by any chance.
Through LinkedIn, or what do
I'd
you use for
find
courses?
experts in the field. For example, one's called Molly Pittman, and then I'd buy the course. I'd invest back in myself to learn how to do these things. I bought a lot of Russell Brunson courses and so forth. Yes.
Quick question. So you're big on like saving time and obviously leveraging.
Yes.
But then what made you go and learn it yourself versus just getting a digital marketing agency and go, or an expert, and or hire them part-time, full-time, or just completely outsource it?
I tried doing that.
Oh, okay.
So back, I tried to, we engaged maybe 4 different agencies. None of them could understand the accounting space. None of them could.
How hard is it to understand?
You have to ask them that, I guess. It would be months, and back then, a dollar was very, very useful to me, and the more that was spent, it became thousands of dollars into.
Yeah, they don't charge cheap either.
No, it wasn't cheap.
No, they're expensive.
There was no outcome, basically no results.
Wow.
And that's why
4 agencies.
Yeah, so I said, well, I'm going to try this myself. I'm going to give it a go. I understand what clients want and their mindset.
Was it crafting the message that was the issue
Yes.
for them? Okay, got you.
Crafting the message.
So it wasn't obviously the technical aspect of SEO or the funnels. It was the pain point message.
That's exactly right. Crafting the message and what makes, like, exactly your question, what makes them book in a meeting or call in the first place. That's what they couldn't understand. And I don't think there are many out there at the moment. Even today, I haven't found many marketing agencies that are doing it successfully for accounting firms.
I think that's the issue, because like when I speak to clients and like, oh yeah, we tried it, it didn't do much, So there's that kind of aspect, like, yeah, digital, marketing doesn't work because of that.
Yes.
And also, I think the second aspect is clients are sticky, so they're not going to just change their accounts because of some Facebook ad. Like it would be crazy for an account.
Yes.
Yeah. But you proved it works.
Yeah, but it did cost us a lot of money. Thousands and thousands of dollars were spent trying to figure it out.
In Facebook ads mostly, or courses?
Figuring out courses, everything together. It was a big investment and a big gamble to try and figure it out, but it worked. It has worked, and it continues to work, and that's what we thrive on at the moment.
What was the biggest channel for you that worked the best?
Well, I don't think there is.
Because there's 3 big ones, right? There's LinkedIn, there's Google ads, and there's Facebook ads.
Yeah. Well, we don't do LinkedIn at the moment. We found our return was better on Google ads, SEO, Facebook. Those are the strategies.
What was the biggest one?
I would say SEO and Google ads. However, combining that with a niche strategy.
Okay, niche strategy meaning the e-commerce accounts that you created?
That's exactly right, yes. So that one is our most powerful by far. And it's so powerful, in fact, that we have too many leads that are coming in. We can't handle them all. We're turning away clients.
Is it because of the SEO and the ranking thing that you need the niche?
I believe so. And also, I guess a good story, a good way to put it is, I read a book that talked about niches, and there was a guy selling bug spray, and it was the best bug spray in the world. So he put it up onto, let's say it was Walmart or something like that in the US. He put it up there, and it just could not sell. It was bug spray, but it would kill any single bug. Now, what happened was a marketer came in and said, hey, I will sell this for you. Obviously, I want to get something back, but if I sell it, you'll pay me. And the guy said, go for it. I've tried everything I've ever tried, and it doesn't work. Now, he changed the bug spray name to Ant Killer. And after that, his sales just took off. It was the best best ant killer in the world, apparently. And that's the power of niching. I believe that, if you are that expert in the field, someone is going to choose you over a generalist.
Why is that? Because really it's the same work. Let's be honest. It's not that much different.
Well, I sort of disagree with that one, because in the e-commerce space, we are now diving deep into integrations. We're diving deep into international tax issues that are in the e-commerce based, where we're developing relationships with lawyers, insurance brokers, people that will provide finance that understand the e-commerce space, R&D grants. We're looking at EDMG grants, and this is we're now providing extra advice and services that are very specific to the e-commerce world.
So But from a compliance
Oh,
perspective,
compliance.
it's the same work, really.
Yeah,
It's advisory aspect mostly that
correct.
is different.
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yes.
And that's what you can charge more for from, like putting them on a higher tier or
Yeah.
also advisory projects, I guess.
Yeah, and the bookkeeping's different as well. Like that is I guess, data entry, but the bookkeeping side of e-commerce is completely different to any other industry.
How is it different?
The integrations that you'll require, for example, if you're using Amazon or
Okay.
if you're using Shopify, they might have an inventory system, and then that
Yep.
needs integration to Xero, and it all needs to talk together properly. It can get quite difficult.
Gotcha. And you help your clients to basically
That's
do
right.
the IT piece as well?
It depends on the integration, but with the bookkeeping integrations, we will do that. If it's an
Yeah.
inventory implementation, we have third parties that will assist with that because it's a very large job, and we stay in our lane basically.
Yeah, okay. And how much of your business is e-commerce then versus
Um,
everyone else?
I wouldn't have an actual percentage. I would say it's a very high percentage. In terms of leads, let's say that those 180 leads, I would say 80% of those were e-commerce businesses in the last 2 months. So
Wait, is half your client base e-commerce now or any?
I would say so. Yep.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Mm.
And Australian based.
Australian based, we do have some clients that are coming in from the US, Canada, UK who are doing business in Australia that need to set up entities or need to lodge activity statements.
Got you.
So we're starting to gain a bit of traction there as well. But across Australia, that's the beauty about e-commerce. There's so much more open to the idea of meetings online, even before the pandemic.
Because it's e-commerce, yeah,
Correct.
makes sense. And especially if they're overseas, yeah.
Yes.
What would be the average size of your client in terms of fees?
We're trying to get an average size of around, our goal is to hit 8,000 average, but we will have some clients that are, sitting around the 40,000, 30,000, 20,000. Our strategy is not to have the biggest client. Our strategy is to have the clients that we know we can service to a very high level. Because I know a lot of accounting firms, they thrive off, we have the biggest client, we have $100,000 client, but for us, that's not necessarily what we want, because a lot of those $100,000 clients are pain in the backsides. So we first and foremost want to make sure that our staff are happy, as well as giving back to the client, and they know that if we have a happy client and happy staff, they work well together, and that's our aim.
So is it $8,000 now, or is that the goal is $8,000?
No, so we're still continuously trying to improve our client average order value because of the original clients that we had.
Okay. So where are you at now?
So if we're looking at, we're probably sitting at around 5.
Okay.
5 at the moment.
Which is still above average. The average is around 3, I would say 3.5 in the industry.
Yes, and every single new clients that are coming on board, we're averaging at about 7 to 8.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's providing them like the cash flow forecasting, 4 meetings a year, quarterly, mostly? Or?
Yeah, well, that may not even include the cash flow forecasting. So majority of our clients will have obviously the compliance aspects, the BASs and the tax, but we'll have tax planning in there. That's a big area that we always go down. We'll have 4 quarterly basic advisory meetings. Now, our basic advisory meetings are catching up with the client, doing a basic performance report of their last quarter, let's say, giving them an idea of what they need to do in terms of tax, and having just a session where they can ask questions, of which then we can provide answers and value add at that point. So, they may need legals, they may need something else, they may need whatever you name it. That's how we identify issues very quickly.
Do you still deal with any clients or service any clients yourself?
So my role in the business at the moment is to build new teams.
Yeah.
So at the moment we're down a client manager. So I step into that role, build that set, and then from there a client manager. Correct. And I'll do that with new teams, and I'll build them up and so forth. Always thinking of the fact that clients need to be educated that I won't be there forever. Yeah. And that's a difficult aspect.
And it's a wonderful segue into our next thing, which is, like the biggest frustration for accounting firms is getting staff. And it's the biggest stumbling block to their growth as well. Like beyond getting client acquisition. Well, client acquisition is probably one, and the second is staff. Somehow in the last 2 years, you've managed to grow from like 12 to, almost 30, so doubling in size. How did you resolve that staffing issue? Like, because you said you constantly need teams, and also the way you provide your service is not, just standard tick and flick bookkeeping or anything like that. Like, they need to have some sort of commercial acumen as well. How did you go about recruiting and creating such a large team in such a short period of time, given everyone else is struggling to get decent people?
Sure. Staff for us it's been a very big learning curve, and it still is because of all the factors. I would say staff is the hardest aspect, in my eyes, the hardest aspect of an accounting business. It's
Of any business,
of any
I would
business.
actually say.
Yeah,
because you can figure out the marketing, you can figure, like, they're all
yes,
inanimate things. You can figure them out. Humans, on the other hand, man, fickle and finicky creatures, aren't they?
yes. Too many different opinions.
Yes.
Too many emotions, but that's what we have to deal with, and that's okay. So I guess my mentality from the get-go, and I learnt this from Brad Smith, who was the CEO of Intuit. His mentality was staff first, clients second, and then equity holders last. So that's what we do in New Wave.
Okay.
We always look at our staff first, and that is looking at, making sure that firstly they fit into the culture when we hire them. We're very, very big on culture, and we like to show that, because if we can show that in terms of remuneration, flexibility, staff events.
What is culture? It's such a broad term. Like, people throw it around, a cultural fit. I'm like, how do you how do you personally define culture? And what does it encapsulate for you?
To me, it is I guess a collaborative environment that people are happy to be in.
Okay.
In a very simple term, for me, that if you don't want to, if you're sitting there and you're hating it, then it's usually not about the work itself. It's rarely, I believe it's rarely about the work. It's more about the environment. And if you have great people around you, you have great incentives, you have an aligned team that wants to do the same, or wants to go and head down the vision that business has. That's the culture that we're trying to build, in a sense that everyone is aligned. We're not trying to hire people that it's just another job. We don't want people that are just here for a paycheck. We want people that want to change other people's lives, other businesses' lives, and that's how we hire. With that, it creates the same type of personalities, or similar personalities, where everyone gets along, and there is a no blame sort of environment. But we've all worked.
How do you figure that out, though?
In terms of
because everyone has this, like, I want this type of person or great people.
Yeah.
But, everyone wants someone that fits into the team if they have
Yes.
a culture of some sort. Which, as I said, I'm still iffy about that, because I'm like, is there, unless you're Google and there's kind of a Google-esque culture to it.
Yes.
Very few accounting firms have a culture.
Yes.
Most of them just hire people that can just do the job.
Yeah, so we don't do that. We, like, first and foremost, when we do interview, we try to figure out, well, are they a fit? Do we think we would want to have a beer with them, basically? Yeah, okay. Are we able to go out on a Friday, have a beer with them, and then would they fit in with the rest of the team? We know.
So can you show me the process? Like, what does that look like? Do you just rely on CCATs? Do you use agencies?
We use everything.
Friends? Like,
basically.
Everything.
So we have recruiters, we have CCADs, we have internal incentives staff that want to basically find their friends or colleagues that will want to come in, and then we'll put them through an interview process with myself and Chanel, my partner. We will sit down and go through a variety of questions. A lot of them won't be technical questions.
Structured. Specific questions?
Specific questions.
So everyone has... And do you sit there with your clipboard writing down every answer, or and evaluating and taking...
Chanel does.
Okay.
She's very much methodical. Me, I'll start veering off into the la land. But yeah, we'll go through that process and basically ask the questions that we want to determine. What's a great work environment for you? What are your goals, career goals in the next 3 to 5 years? What do you like about accounting in general? Are they in line with our vision? That's what we're trying to figure out. Now, we then we have started now doing personality tests, making sure that when it comes in, we assess that so that we know that they will fit in with a certain team. We've just recently done a firm-wide personality test to...
A DISC one or an MBTI one?
I believe it's a DISC one. I believe it might.
Okay.
so we sat down and we explained it to all of the staff, and now we recruit based on that as well, so that we know that they fit in. Now, the last factor is if we do hire them, it's a very we had a very hard and fast rule. So we hire slow, but we fire fast. And
how fast is fast?
It could be 2 months. It could be a month if we feel it, but we want to do it within a 3-month period. But ideally,
okay, so it's not super fast because like I've
ideally in a month, yeah.
Okay, because I've seen clients let go of people within a week. First week.
Okay. Well, that's super fast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was like, when you said fast, I'm like, cool. I want to benchmark.
Yeah. Well, before that, let's call it medium pace. Before that, we would hold on to staff a long time, and
because it's hard to let go of people, right? Like you invested emotionally, you interviewed them, you wanted to work because you're also growing. Yes. So you're like, damn, like I gotta have to recruit and replace them. So it's kind of like a battle.
But what I've found recently, over the last couple of years, is that the longer you hold on to these staff members, the more the other staff members resent, because they won't say anything that, this person's underperforming, but it also affects their life. So I think that it's been a very strong play in the sense that, we are making these decisions and other staff members see that as hey, they're actually looking out for us, because it makes our life harder with these people that aren't aligned. And it's a very hard thing to do. It's probably the side where I'm the weakest in terms of, telling someone that they don't have a job anymore. But it's a necessary
evil. Is it mostly the cultural aspect that you get rid of people, or is it the underperformance where
both.
They just...
It's both. Okay. Yes. Technical's a big side for us as well. We're not just looking for people. Culture's first, but technical's obviously very close second. If they can't perform in what they said they can do, then it's a big reason why we will also shut it down.
And you give them warnings and try and train them through it?
Yeah, we do. Okay. We do. We go through a process, and we go through performance plans and so forth if we need to, and regular training, regular updates. And if still at that point they can't get there, then we have to make that decision, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Okay. And going back to the interview process, so you've got a structured process. The two of you do the first interview. Is there a second interview as well?
Sometimes. Depends on how much we need the person. So, because if they're very good, we find that there are a lot of accounting firms that are trying to snag that same person.
100%. Yes. Like right now, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's desperate times right now.
Yes.
What happens when you guys disagree? She likes it or you like it, the other person doesn't like it?
I think we both have to agree.
Okay. Have you ever had times when you're like, one of you doesn't like the other person?
Yeah, all the time. Where she might say, and then the reasonings come out, and then we ultimately, if we don't both agree, then we say no.
Okay, so there's no second interview or like get a third person involved or anything like that?
No, maybe that's a good idea. Actually, we might think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because if culture is a big thing, I find usually the way I've done it, I know a lot of other companies, you get a long-serving manager. It's kind of like a really good ambassador and a good representation of the culture, to give you, for them to hang out and have a chat.
Yes.
And then you get a third opinion to see whether the person fits in or not. And vice versa, like the candidate might be like, oh, actually, I've got another offer, I'm not interested. Having met your manager, right? So it becomes a two-way thing, but you get a third opinion whenever you're not 100% sure. I do it either way, just to get the second opinion full, because I'm the only director, I guess. You've got the second opinion coming from your wife. So yeah, like I find that's quite useful. And if you think about the Google process, they get like 5 interviews, and everyone has to agree on it, right? It's even harder. Okay, cool. So is there any particular questions that are the ones that really determine whether it's a yay or nay for you?
Not so much.
In terms of how they answer it?
The way I approach is Chanel, my partner, she goes through a lot of the questions and a lot of the technical side. And then my job in this interview process is to sell them why they should come and work with us.
Because you do have to do that as well, right? Especially in the current market.
Yes, that's right. So I'm the salesman and she's basically the interrogator, in a sense.
And I think a lot of It's a really, really good point you brought up, because like a lot of accounting partners, they don't realize they actually have to sell
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity as well, because like there's just so much competition, especially in the current market where the borders are closed. Like people, like I get calls from clients every single day going, "Hey, have you got an audit? Have you got this?" I'm like, to be honest, like right now, we're just saying, look, unless you want to work with us on retainer, we're not really that interested, because reality is if I've got a candidate, I'm giving it to you, but I'm also giving it to 20 of your competitors. So I'm creating an auction situation automatically, which means you'll be overpaying in salary and you'll be overpaying in my fee. So, put me on retainer, you will get first dibs
Mm-hmm.
basically, which means lower salary and a lower fee. Like it's a win-win kind of thing. Because otherwise we're too inundated right now, because it's just the market is
So
crazy right
much
now.
demand. Yes.
So much demand. But yeah, what I think a lot of partners forget to do is that selling
Yes.
aspect. Like they just do the interview and they expect the person to be interested. But there's a million choices. Like there's Reuben down the road with New Wave Accounting. Like that's got this amazing vision and growth and all of that. So it's hard to compete with Reuben. So you have to sell your little practice to the person. Okay, so it makes sense. So she does the questions, you do the selling of
Yeah.
what the grand vision basically, and the opportunities.
Basically, and that's where I sit there after I've tried to sell the vision and what we're wanting to achieve, and I try to assess their reaction on that. Some people would,
When you say,
yes.
sorry,
I was
go
going to
on,
say
go on.
some people will sit there and there'll be no real reaction. Some people will be like, "That's amazing. We want to do that as well. That's what I want to do." And those are the people that we find that are really striving for something more. Hmm.
When you say technical questions, do you actually quiz them or give them a test or anything like that?
We were doing it that we've had a look at, I guess, questionnaires that we could provide them, but not really. It's more, I guess, their technical skill, not asking them, what's Div 7A loan. Where I think Chanel just goes through a process where we're identifying what they are doing at the moment and what they have done. We should really go a little bit deeper, and that's something that we'll be exploring down the track, whether there are accounting tests out there that we can provide them just to.
There's a company in New Zealand that actually does some
Yeah,
accounting
okay.
tests. I think ACS from memory.
Yes.
But a lot of firms that are big on making sure the staff are technically
Mm.
competent, and to avoid that, having to fire someone, is they just create their own test and just do a sample file. And
Mm.
after the interview, or they get them to come back for a second interview, they just get them to come in for half an hour to an hour, depending on the size of the test, whether it's audit or tax. So there's a few clients in my head right now, and they do a pretty tough test. And the reason it's tough is um, because they use the same test for everyone, whether it's an intermediate or a manager. So then they'll see what level you're at
That's a
automatically,
great
because
idea.
you'll struggle with certain questions, but a manager should be able to go all the way to the end and answer them, and pick up different points. So you'll know whether they're at a manager level, senior level, intermediate level, or junior level, pretty quickly. And they'll give them basically, essentially, hey, there's this scenario, client's looking to do this A, B, and C. What are the issues that you need to advise on? Blah blah blah. So I'll have a test like that, a half an hour to 45 minutes, and then they'll quickly be able to come back to me with a yay or nay whether they want to hire someone. And that avoids the whole technical thing where you have to figure out, can they do the job? Because the issue is, not every client realizes that a person who interviews well doesn't make a good staff member, because there's a lot of people job hopping that are great at interviewing because they are always interviewing.
Mm.
And they perfected the interview skills and ability to sell themselves. But it's actually like, if you think of what you mentioned before about accountants, like they're introverts, right? But traditionally or stereotypically, they're not. Your best staff members are the ones that are really loyal, haven't been to an interview in 5 years.
Mm.
They're not great at selling themselves. They're nervous about it. It's their first interview. They're not going to perform that well. But give them a client to work on, they'll do an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But that might not come across in a traditional interview. So I find tests are good. It also avoids the issue of, a client coming back to us, for example, and going, hey, the person isn't as good as they claim to be. Cool. But then why don't you do a test? Why didn't you ask them technical questions? You know what I mean?
Mm. That's a great
Um,
point. I'm definitely going to give that a go. So I'll have a chat to my implementer and ask her to do that in our next interviews for sure.
yeah. So there's two ways that I find clients do it. One is they'll ask technical questions throughout the interview. So they go, hey, by the way, like, Yeah, and they'll warn. A good thing would be just to manage the expectation thing. Is like, hey, by the way, we'd love to interview you. Come in at such and such a time. We'll have a good chat about it. We might ask you some technical stuff so that like they know what's expecting. We'll talk about our firm, blah blah blah. So you manage that expectation, and then throughout the interview, yeah, you make them comfortable, you get to know them, but then you go, hey, look, just want to ask you to make sure you're on the same page as us in terms of technical, because we really we have a great culture here, and we expect kind of people to service our clients to a high level, blah blah blah. And some questions are like, how would you handle, like a typical thing for us would be a client such as such and such. How would you handle a client like that? Or if you had such and such scenario, like, it would come in when they're talking about their clients and their work. You'd be like, okay, cool. So you have these type of clients. How do you go about managing this issue or this situation? And you run through 3 or 5 things that you guys normally have as well and see how they've managed it. Someone that can answer things with specificity, they're not bullshitting,
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
They know their stuff. Someone that like gives you very vague answers, they might have read about it, but they've never done it. You know what I mean? And you don't need exact answers. You don't need numbers, because accountants, you don't know everything, right? But your ability to look things up, and you should have an idea of how to advise a client. And you would get an idea of how they would approach, a client or an issue where they're not familiar with as well. And just, it's about their thinking, right? And their approach. And a person that's at a certain level would have a certain approach, I believe. So that's one way if you want to simplify things. The other way is you get them to do a test either straight after your verbal interview, which is 30 to 45 minutes. You get to know them, and then you say, look, by the way, there'll be a quick test, which should take about half an hour to 45 minutes. You leave them in the boardroom, you give them a piece of paper, you come back and pick it up in whatever time period you've allocated. Or if you have a long test, like some of my clients have an hour test, for example, they'll get them to come in a second day. Well, they'll arrange it. They'll say, look, we usually have a test. Would you like to do it after the interview? Would you, if we decide to proceed, you can do it also, come back on a second day when it's convenient for you.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I don't know what it, yeah. Might be a bit harder now with the whole remote thing to do that, but you can do the verbal tests. So yeah, that way you just know where the person stands, and there's no bullshit kind of situation where they've oversold themselves.
Amazing. Yep. I'm definitely going to give that a go. We'll definitely give that a go in our next interview.
I encourage all my clients to do it. And something that part of our plan this year is like we'll develop a test ourselves. The only issue for us is when the market is that hot, like marketing, right? You don't want to create extra friction points in the process, because, like, for example, as a recruiter, the candidates that we go after, 10 other recruitment agencies go after as well. So if we make it harder for them, or put them through a testing process and extensive interviews, then it's like, oh, these guys are too much hassle. I'm just going to go with, the cowboy recruiter down the road that had a 5-minute interview and flicked the CV to an accounting firm, and then they got him an interview. So that's kind of the issue for us, I guess. But for you guys, if they're interested and it's a real job, then, you're in a better position to do that. Hence why I encourage my clients to do it.
That's right.
Cool. So look, I understand the process, and you said like you've made a lot of or there've been a lot of learnings, I guess, through that thing. What have been some of the biggest learnings from the recruitment sourcing piece?
Yeah, sure. I guess one of the biggest learnings is that what I spoke about before, holding on too long and creating a lot of the underlying issues that they just start to happen where staff aren't happy, we're not happy, basically no one's happy, and you're just holding on. That's been one of the bigger ones. And then I guess as we grow and scale, the second issue is how aggressive we are marketing out there in terms of seek ads and recruiters. We had an approach before where we'd start to look for people when we need them. But now we're really planning forward and looking at the next 1, 2, 3 years rather than just looking at the next 3 months.
No, you should always be hiring.
Yes.
It's all of my best clients are constantly hiring. Like if I have a star, they will put them on. They're like, when I speak to the partner, I'm like, so do you have an opportunity for them? Is that work? Like, I'll create work. Don't worry. It's fine.
I think it was the fear before as well, where, can we afford this person? And do we put them on now? But now a lot of that with the foundation, the fear is gone in a sense. That we just need staff for the future, and that's the way we think now. Change of mindset.
Cool. Speaking about mindset, and we spoke, and we'll touch on it a little bit later in terms of like the modeling. Um, you've gone and created a practice from 0 to 3+ mil now, um, in a span of 5 years. Is that replicable? Like, could another 25-year-old Ruben, or John, or somewhere from an accounting firm with 5 years experience go out and do exactly the same?
I think so. I think if you want it enough, there is nothing that I have done that another person cannot do. There's nothing
So what?
special that I have. In a sense, it's unique for now, but it will be normal one day, I believe. There's nothing really stopping you, in a sense. If a 25-year-old went out there and said, I want to start my own firm, and many are doing it at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of big, second tier, top tier firms. A lot of the managers are now starting their own. Now, scalability is down to how much they want it and that mindset.
So talk about mindset,
Yes.
because you've used that word a few times. Like, what is that? What sort of mindset do you need?
For growth and scale, do you mean?
Yep.
I think you need to have a business mindset rather than an accounting mindset. So in a sense that most people will run an accounting practice, accounting firm as an accountant, where I don't think that it's possible at scale. They run it in the way that they still want to be that main person running everything, that has the final decisions, that talks to all of the clients. Delegation is far from perfect, and it's impossible to scale it.
How did you transition your clients? Because obviously you were the guy servicing them for the first couple of
Yes.
years. When was the last time you actually, I don't know, when was the last time you did a tax return or advised a client?
A tax return a long time. So I haven't done a tax return in a while. I would say 2-3 years ago, probably.
So how did you transition a client that used to be serviced by you, and Ruben would be calling them, and then you go, by the way, I've got John here who will look after you. How did you? Because as you said, partners struggle with that.
Well, at the start, so I've learned a lot over the years. But at the start, I would have my number 2 at the time, and he's still with us at the moment. I would bring him into a lot of meetings, and then slowly get him to reply back to the clients with the answers that they want, high value replies, in the sense that this guy knows what he's talking about. Obviously, I would review a lot of his work at that time. And that's the way we transitioned that initial set of clients to him. So he deals with most of those original clients now, and they're still with him.
How long does it take before they stop calling you, though?
Well, I stopped giving out at the start, I gave my personal phone number, and I learned quickly that was the biggest mistake. If you can invest in a number, if it's a digital number, please get one, because clients will call you at 7:00 at night. But how long did it take? From when I started to, I would say 2 years.
Before a client stops calling you?
Before I was completely off talking clients. Before they.
Well, no, just starting that transition process where you bring in another person to the meetings, to the point where they stop calling you.
Now it's very quick. Literally after the sales meeting, if I've discussed who the accountant's going to be, I basically will not.
So you still do the sales meetings? Then?
Not all of them, only the capacity, because all of our managers do sales meeting, and I'm building each new set.
Gotcha.
So those ones I will explain, and if it's going to my assistant client manager, then I'm going to say he's going to be dealing with you. If you need anything, obviously, if it comes to pricing and so forth, I'll be here, but he is more than capable of handling everything. And at that point in time, they can either choose to say, no, I want to deal with you, which I'll say, sorry, look, I just don't. You'll get a better service this way. Then from day dot, when they're onboarded, I'm not there, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And it's been very difficult to build that structure and to let go, but you got to trust your staff, and you got to have very good staff.
Speaking of staff, part of your team is an outsourced team, or is the outsourced team in addition to that team that we mentioned, the 26 staff?
Yeah, so 26 staff include our office in the Philippines. So we started off going through BPOs. Then we transitioned to having people working from home in the Philippines, and then as we grew bigger, we decided, it was just before COVID hit, that we get our own office over there and create our own company and so forth. So it's our own. They're part of our team.
When did you start using a BPO?
Probably when did we start? Probably 2 years down the track.
2 years down. Okay, everything seemed to have happened 2
Yeah.
years down the track.
It's
Um,
yeah. I think at that point it's when I really started thinking about creating foundations and scale. That's when I started thinking about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that when you entered the Wise mentoring program?
No, it was before that. This is I read a few books. One which is Traction. Has nothing to do with accounting again, but it just talks about scale and building foundations. And that was a book that really opened my eyes to, I need to make a change in this business. It can't just be all me.
Yeah. Okay. Traction.
Mm-hmm.
So you read the book and you're like, okay, cool. We need to. And the outsource piece, was that bookkeeping or was that just general admin?
Bookkeeping.
Stuff, like
it was bookkeeping at the start. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And using BPOs like TOA or
I can't remember
Indian ones? Or...
Yeah, we tried an Indian one. We didn't use TOA. I can't remember who the first Manila-based one was, but didn't last very long. I didn't understand how to work it properly. Communication training.
What was it? Yeah, explain the issue and the journey there, because like a lot of clients that have bookkeeping businesses, either exclusive or as part of their accounting kind of service, they've gone down the BPO journey and they've struggled and they've reverted back to in-house. So I want to understand what that looked like for you, because you didn't just you persisted basically.
That's right. Well, it was another one of those ones where people told me it didn't work, and I said, "Screw you! I'm going to show you that it can." But at the start, we were using outsourcing companies that it was a service per service, I guess, in a sense. We didn't have an actual dedicated outsource staff member or a bookkeeper. We were doing it on a here's a BAS or here's a bookkeeping job, send it back, and then it was in that function. I just didn't think it would work properly with what we wanted to do in terms of control quality and so forth, because we always had a different person doing our job. And then,
what were the reasons why people said, like the people said to you that it's not going to work or it doesn't work or whatever? What were their reasons for it?
Training was a big one.
What does that mean?
I guess training it in the way that they were preparing their own bookkeeping internally with their processes and procedures. They didn't understand. A lot of these guys were on Handysoft in their service, and there was a lack of understanding of how to get the guys overseas to basically have access to this, and also security and all those sort of aspects. I think that was a very big aspect. And then obviously if it wasn't right, they would give up because the quality's not there. It just wasn't worth the time or the effort.
Interesting, because with your own staff, like you would invest the time and effort.
That's exactly right. And that's something that I find very strange, is that a lot of accounting firms still think of outsourced companies as, especially if they hire them full time, as a completely separate business, but it's not. It's your business. They're your staff, and you should treat them exactly the same way you treat your staff here.
So you tried a few BPOs that didn't work because there were more service as a service provision versus a dedicated person. And then you tried the work from home model. Why didn't you stick with this? Because like work from home model seems to be easier and lower cost and less hassle than having an office to maintain, pay bills, blah, blah, blah.
There were a few aspects why we didn't stay with that. It was working. However, we were finding that consistency was not there for internet access. Some of them would just suddenly drop out for hours. The control for security wasn't there either. So if they had a laptop with all of our clients' data, it's basically theirs. They could probably get it anyway, but at least there's another level there. And also, again, coming back to culture, building an internal culture and a vision that they could be a part of. We found that a little bit harder. So now we have our own office where, our culture, we replicate our culture here over there. They have a HR team over there. They have a manager over there. They do events when we do events. We do Zoom meetings together. Everyone's getting trained in the same office.
And they have a manager that manages them there, or is there a manager here?
The manager's there, yes.
Okay.
So they basically have exactly what we have here. And
Did you have to go over there and set it
we
up yourself
did.
quite a few times?
Yeah, we did,
Yeah,
and we were
okay.
lucky. The month before we set it all up, signed the papers, was when COVID started to happen. So it was
Which means they still went back to working from home, really.
correct. Yes. Well, it was a fair few months until that happened, but we were very lucky because of that office. It was actually a Chinese company that owned that office. They had the lease. They did a big fit out, and then they went back home for Chinese New Year, and then COVID hit, and they couldn't come back. So yeah, there was a perfectly amazing office that was just ready to go. So the stars aligned for us at that point in time, and since then we haven't been back because we haven't been able to. So we were very lucky.
Because everyone's been, and how did you manage that? Like the whole, because of the issue from working from home was the productivity, the security, etc. How did you end up dealing with that issue?
So we have a lot of, I guess, software that assists us in the background now. We have Active Track that allows us to track productivity on a more accurate basis rather than just timesheets, where we have daily meetings and a lot of accountability set in there as well. So we meet with the guys over there every single day.
Wow.
Yeah, each of our
Okay.
teams.
And set the tone for the day.
Yeah,
Basically.
they're 10 out of 10, they're there. Our team Monday meetings, they're there. Our team Friday meetings, they're there. So every single day they're there as a part of it. But one of the hard parts, and people obviously in Melbourne and Sydney are probably experiencing at the moment, where if you're isolated, it gets very hard. So we need to make sure that we're trying to keep up just a healthy work environment as much as possible. So we're doing at the moment, we have quizzes and events and so forth, what they can join into. And this week we're going to send them, we're going to have a lunch here on the Gold Coast with our team, but we're going to send them all lunches to their houses. Just little things like that
Cool.
I think that make a big difference, and it keeps that retention high and keeps our staff happy as well.
Yeah. Okay. Are they still just doing the bookkeeping, or have they moved on to more complex tasks now?
So we have bookkeepers over there that do end-to-end bookkeeping. They're just a bookkeeping team. We have a tax team over there that do compliance, BASs, FBT, returns. All advisory gets done in the Australian team.
Got you. Okay. So the guys on the ground here, they would review the work from the Philippines?
Correct.
And then just to offer the advisory aspect?
Correct. That's right. We have levels of review, yes.
Okay. And I noticed that you actually promote your guys like at a pretty young level to senior positions. Yes. Is that part of the attraction?
I think so. When they sit down and when I sell it, it's how far you can go is up to you. How fast you want to go is up to you.
So I think you call them like client managers, client directors.
Client managers, yeah. We have assistant client managers, senior client managers.
Yes. Yeah, and they're pretty young guys.
Yeah, the guy that's been with me since the start, he deals with a $1.3 million set that he runs himself, and he has a team of 7 with him. And he's
how old is
25.
He? Wow.
And he deals with a lot of our bigger clients.
Was that partly to you? Well, is that due to your training? Like you train him up to be a little replica of yourself?
I tried to.
He came in with a lot of skills already.
No, he came in as a grad. He's only ever worked here. Yeah,
and 3 years later, he's running a $1.something million portfolio.
Yeah.
How?
I'm just a true believer in terms of if they can handle it, throw them in the deep end. Learn as much as possible. Empowerment is my biggest. It's my motto. There's no need to hold someone back if they have the hunger and drive to do it. And he.
But is this guy special?
Special in terms of knowledge and so forth. There's
just like a lot of drive, or just really super intelligent and like grasps things very quickly.
He's a young guy with an old school mentality. Work hard, grind, stay back when he needs to, and he does it because he wants to, and he wants to move forward and progress, and he's competitive, and he just understands it. He knows what to do, and he'll learn things very quickly because he has to. But yeah,
and he would be on more than 6 figures.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great selling point. I mean,
yes.
When you sell to accounting firms, when accounting firms sell the opportunity, which very few do, what's the biggest attraction point for you that you kind of focus on?
The biggest would be our vision, in sense of like the guys that we're attracting, the guys that want to come on board, they, I think, have that same feeling that accounting can be something else. That accounting
Okay.
needs to be disrupted in a way that they want to progress, and they want to, become something more. And that's I think the biggest push, and the catalyst that says, look, I want to join this team. And then the second part is our culture and how much fun we have.
The quizzes.
The quizzes, the events, the wheels, spinning wheels, all those sort of things.
Okay. I was going to ask you, in terms of the, I guess the vision, what is your vision? What is your end goal?
To create a generational business, in a sense.
What does that mean?
It means that without me, it'll continue to work. I want to create this so that there is a business that becomes basically a household name, but in its own division, in a sense that we're doing this not only for the clients, but we're doing this to change as many of our staff's lives as possible. And that means, not just paying them as much as possible, but getting to them to where they want to be without restricting them. And that's going to be the next stages of New Wave, is figuring out how exactly to do that at scale. Most of the things we've figured out already in terms of the foundations, but it's going to be, because I know that someone one day will put their hand up and say, I want to be a partner, I want to be an equity partner, I want to do whatever it is. And we want to disrupt that on how that's traditionally done.
So what's your plan for that?
I've got some plans in mind. It's probably not ready yet, just in case my staff members listen to this. We've already got some plans in place on how we want to do that and how we're going to build this into a place where they're invested, in a sense.
Because succession planning is always a massive issue.
Yes.
There's a really interesting way. Have you heard of Blue Rock?
Blue Rock? No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Check them out. Their website is out of this world. And I had the MD Peter Layla on the podcast 2 weeks ago. Or last week actually. Very similar to you. Went out on his own at a pretty young age, and then grew the practice from 0 to, well, now it's 40 mil in 6 years.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yes.
Multidisciplinary as well.
Yes.
Well, I think it was a few years to get to 2.6, and then the same sort of thing, changed a few things, and then just skyrocketed to 40 within a very short period of time. Multidisciplinary has got hundreds of staff now across different things, but he also has that same concept. He's very humble and drives a Kia Carnival and used to drive a beat up Volvo, but he created a really cool structure where he's got an overarching company that owns the accounting business plus a whole bunch of other businesses that they've chosen to invest in. He's on the boards of multiple other businesses. He's got burger franchises and restaurants and pubs and everything and anything. So that his staff can invest into the overarching business, and the overarching business owns all these other ones. I thought that was a really cool structure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So he's got a proper information memorandum, but he's super multidisciplinary. He's got 10 plus divisions.
Wow.
He's got digital marketing division, legal division, financial division, insurance division, lending division, everything under one umbrella.
Unreal. Well, I got a new goal.
So check it. Yeah, check it out. He's actually got a really cool goal now. It's called 30-30. So he wants to, because he's managed to grow that practice so quickly to 40 mil. He's basically doing, it's called Blue Rock 30-30, where he's doing 30 firms around the world that are doing 30 mil, which is essentially creating a $1 billion organization.
Wow.
30 times 30 in a way, plus, a little bit more, I guess. But amazing guy, similar sort of concept, super driven, but very big on tech. So they've got their own software development team as well, which produces a lot of.
Well, you've given me a challenge, Michael. There's this challenge accepted. I'm going to have a look at this and
It was just a unique structure to solve exactly that issue of equity, because he had the same problem. It's how do you grow it, but then also encourage? And he has already done what you're planning to do, which is that massive leadership layer. So it's
Amazing.
got
Yes.
loads of directors. So yeah, check it out. And
I
actually,
will.
if you're on a
Yes, I
computer,
will
jump on his
jump on.
website. Like it will blow your mind. So that's a work in progress for you, as you said.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Your end goal, as you said, like a generational business that,
Hmm.
makes a difference to your staff. Is there anything like
What I want to do?
A, what does that mean by B? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do, my whole vision for this is that I want to get it to a point where it will run by itself. At a certain point that I think it will, I'll maybe just become part of the board. I don't want to. I don't think I think there's someone better that would be able to run CEO rather than myself. But I would like to be part of the board to continue the vision. What I truly want to do is give back, and I do have this dream in my mind where I can go back to the Philippines and create some type of foundation where I can train and pay for schooling for students that are struggling through high school and university through an accounting degree or a bookkeeping degree, and train them and then give them a job and actually try and give back in that way and change lives over there as well. I think that would be an awesome way to give back to my roots and really have that contribution factor in my life. Yeah, that would be my dream, I guess.
Awesome. I love that. It's beautiful.
I hope so.
I'd love to see you.
See how we go.
Wanted to ask you, starting as a 25-year-old, now being, I guess, 30, approaching 31, how do you master management and leadership skills? Like, because you went from running probably a small team to now running a business that's growing at a mil a year, 30 people, to 2 different countries. How do you get the leadership skills? How do you grow as a person to be able to handle that extra challenge?
I think leadership skills for me, it was again a learning curve because it was so quick and it was so fast. You will make mistakes, but I continuously trying to just hone in on those skills through personal development, and it's beyond what I figured out. And what I'm learning is that it's beyond just leadership skills on what an accounting practice owner needs to be or director needs to be. I'm now looking into other aspects of, mindset's a big one. I keep coming back to mindset, but, diving into self-awareness and doing other courses that will actually improve your communication with people, because leadership is all about people, I believe. And
it is, and as you said, it's the hardest part of running a business, actually.
It's the hardest part of running business.
So how do you stay ahead of the curve and keep up with that as you keep up with your own personal development to be able to be a good leader for your team and your organization?
Sure. I do get a lot of coaching as well. So whether that's people in the accounting space, whether they are other CEOs, I have a CEO coach at the moment. Whether it's a big sort of change in my life was that going to the Tony Robbins. Believe it or not, I went there and it's actually changed my life in business side, not so much in the other side of the fluffy side. It's the business side that's really changed my perception of how a business should be run and so forth.
Which Tony Robbins course?
I went to Unleash the Power Within in Sydney.
Yeah, okay.
When we were allowed to go, and did the whole thing, and that really changed. I went there with an open mind in terms of how business should be approached in terms of a mindset factor. Yeah. It really, really did change my approach in a sense that I had to be more mindful, not only about people but also myself. I had to look after myself first, because an angry, grumpy CEO that had no discipline and no drive meant that it trickles down and everyone feels it.
How do you maintain your drive and discipline?
That's always been a hard one, because I believe that
I struggle with it. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Oh, it's very hard, and it changes day to day. But for me, I always need to recap on the overall vision. One, look at that, making sure that we're on track, making sure that I'm fit and healthy as much as I can be. I'm eating well.
The bicep curls.
The bicep curls are very, very important.
Yeah.
Have a healthy relationship and have that regime, that daily regime that I can stick to it. And of course, you're going to veer off every now and again, which is okay.
Yeah, you got to do a podcast once in a while.
Yeah. But I feel as though that regime that keeps me on track, to be grateful for the things that have happened and to be always looking forward and having something that you're trying to reach out for is what keeps me motivated.
Do you have a particular structure like that you use for your day? Or
My day-to-day?
Yeah.
My day-to-day, I wake up at 4:30, 4 to 4:30 every day.
That's nuts.
And we'll go straight to the gym. I used to wake up earlier. I used to wake up at 3:30 every day.
How? Why? Are you a baker?
I do sleep very early.
I was like, the only people I know that wake up that early are bakers.
I used to do it for emails, believe it or not. So I would wake up, no distractions. It's just myself, thinking to myself, I have the most clarity in the world, and I would just knock out emails and strategy in the morning. And I would do maybe 1 hour of that, and then I would go straight to the gym and do a workout for an hour. Come back, walk the dogs, and then go to have breakfast and go to work. Basically, that's my routine. That's my routine every single day at the moment. Obviously, it veers off every now and again, but
do you go to the gym every single morning?
Try to.
Wow. Okay.
Try to. Some days I'll be lazy, like anyone. But yeah.
Still, wow. And then, what time do you finish work and go to bed?
I finish work, so I've got a very strict rule that if I can't manage the workflow within that 5 o'clock span, then I'm doing something wrong with the way I structure the business. So every single day I will go home at 5, pretty much without fail.
Regardless of who's around, what needs to be done.
Correct. Well, if there's a big deal that needs to be done or something, or I'll stay back. But if it's just there is a lot of work and we need to stay back, I won't stay back because I want to fix the issue.
Okay.
I'd rather fix the issue than treat the symptoms.
Okay.
But
and then what time do you go to bed?
I go to bed at 8:30. Recently, I've been trying to get off my phone, and it's been very, very healthy. It's been absolutely amazing. I'll stop about half an hour, 45 minutes to make sure I'm not on my phone, no emails coming through. I'll read.
So you still do some work from home then, because you said you're still on your phone or emails, etc.
Sometimes I'll have a look, and I've got Carbon on my phone. I can see all my emails, but it's very rare that I'll actually answer anything.
Yeah.
But I get lured in I get clickbaited into looking at emails, and then I'll be like, I shouldn't have looked at that email. But that's my regime. So 8:30, we'll try and go to bed, and that's Monday to Friday.
And both of you
Saturday,
do it?
Sunday.
Do you both get up at 3:30?
I've stopped at 3:30 now. It's around 4 that we wake up now.
And she goes to the gym with you and does her email. What does she know?
She gets up and gets ready and goes to the gym. Basically,
with you.
I don't do that. I've stopped the emails in the morning.
Okay.
Because to be honest, it's not a great way unless the emails are 100% happy.
Yeah.
Which it rarely is.
Yeah.
There's always fires in there. Then you don't want to start your days doing emails. I was doing it just, I thought it would be more efficient. It was, but it ruins your morning.
Yeah. So you go to the gym now, both of you? Same gym?
Yes.
Do a workout?
She goes to a different gym to myself. So we try to separate a little bit because we are working together all day as well.
And also different client bases, that you can attract.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. This is my 50th gym that I'm going to now.
So you come back and then you go to the shower and then go to the office basically.
Yes, go to the office. Be at the office about 8, just before 8 o'clock, maybe 7:45.
Do you work on weekends and stuff like that as well?
No,
not at all.
Hard and fast rule. No working on the weekends.
So a big change.
No talking about work.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a big change from when you started the first couple of years, where you were probably like 7 days a week nonstop.
Yes, and it's that saying, you built by design, and that's what I've been trying to build. It's by design that you don't need to. I'd rather give up a little bit of profitability to have a way that I don't have to do that on the weekend.
Yeah. What's had the biggest impact on you? Was it like in terms of systems and processes, or was it getting a practice manager? Was it I don't know, a tech thing? Like what was the thing that had the biggest impact on you?
Impact in terms of growth, do you mean?
Growth and that ability to go, hey, I don't actually need to work 7 days a week anymore.
a major impact was definitely getting our systems and procedures together so that it is very, very, very streamlined.
And you base yours on
From
Wise mentoring processes?
no, we base our team structure on Wise mentoring,
Yeah.
but the internal systems and procedures was basically built based on just learning over time.
Okay, so trial and error.
Trial and error.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Is there any tech that had a big impact on you? Or the biggest
Carbon
impact
was
on you?
very good, to be honest. Carbon is very good. A lot of people say that, Carbon, it doesn't work for them, but Carbon is a beast. We call it the beast, and there are a lot of things in there that you slowly need to implement. And if you can do it, the time saving is phenomenal.
Okay. What else? Was there anything else?
Go Proposals are a big game changer, and PI, Practice Ignition.
Yeah.
Those I use them together. I don't use one or the other, and the reason for that is that we can do proposals quicker and more efficiently and accurately in Go Proposal, and then Practice Ignition, obviously, that's our signing off and debiting system and so forth.
Interesting. Yeah, because they're usually like one or the other, not both.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Couldn't you do everything in Practice Ignition?
No, not at that. They don't have, and hopefully they do it one day. They don't have sort of a way that you can say, here's a company and their revenue is 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
They need this, then give me the price.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow you to do that. So the amount of time it will take me to do a proposal in Practice Edition might be 30 to 40 minutes, where I can do it in 5
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Go Proposal.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you guys on Xero, or what are you on in terms of practice management?
So our practice management is all through Carbon. Carbon's our practice management,
Yep.
but we use Xero Tax, Xero Work Papers in the background.
Okay, so it's well integrated.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that's like mind-blowing or works really well?
Mind-blowing.
Or saved you shitloads of time?
A lot of time that we save is initial planning. So a lot of the stuff that Wise Mentoring has taught us in terms of capacity planning, a lot of the things we learned from Slipstream coaching, and that's another, I guess, accounting coaching side where we're planning work in throughout the year rather than ad hoc, just waiting for it to come in. Of that has contributed to time saving in turnaround times of compliance and so forth. But structure, I guess, technology plus structure plus processes creates a scalable business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's important to point out that you actually went out and invested in coaching, like Wise Mentoring, Slipstream. You talked about a CEO coach as well these days.
Yes.
Is that something that's recent, or?
I've been doing that for about 6 months now.
Okay.
He was part of Yellow Brick, I believe Yellow Brick Road and Wizard Home Loans.
Mm-hmm.
So he, I think, built it and sold it for 600 million. And
Okay. Are you talking about Mr. Boris himself, or?
His right hand man.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So he teaches a group of us together, all different industries.
So it's a group thing, not a individual.
Yes,
one-on-one.
and we get one-on-ones with him as well.
Okay.
So it's a very good aspect for me. I think I mentioned to you one time before that I like to learn off other industries and implement strategies, whether that be marketing or whatever it may be, into the accounting world.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that's had an impact that he's taught you?
Marketing and sales, developing the structure of the equity scheme that we're going to go down. So,
so it's more business related, not necessarily
correct.
like a mindset or individual like leadership qualities.
Yeah,
like
that one's business related for sure.
Yeah,
He's very much business related. He's teaching me things that would have never been done in the accounting world. Well, I don't believe, and it's really refreshing because he doesn't look at it at an accountant's point of view. He looks at it as a business point of view.
Yeah, okay.
And that's really helped me as well.
Okay. What have been the biggest challenges, pain points in the business journey for you?
At the start was making sure that we always had enough cash in the business, cash flow. So the first couple of years,
taking your own advice, basically.
Yes. Cash flow is always a hard one, obviously, because we didn't have investors and we didn't have lines of credit or anything like that. Now staff is a very hard one. I think that's with every accounting practice.
Yep.
And then, your structure going forward. that's going to be it. Because I truly believe there's a difference between a business that accounting firm that does up to 1 million and then that does up to 4 million and then 10 million, that you're starting to become, you need to do things differently.
That's right. It was interesting. I was listening to, sorry to interrupt, a podcast or a book. I can't remember who right now. And then I came across exactly the same sentiment by someone else later on. And it basically said something along the lines like the business and the structures and systems you have right now with 5 staff or to 10 staff is going to be very different when you reach 30. And he had a number. He said like multiples of 10 is when it changes. So like
is that
10,
Jack Delosa?
I don't know.
The Entourage. I would listen to that too.
The Entourage, yeah. But no, it wasn't Jack. It was someone else. But yeah, basically, there's, your business and systems have to always evolve because what used to work for 10 staff doesn't work for 30 anymore. What used to work for 30 doesn't work for 100. I was like, oh yeah, interesting.
Yes.
And a lot of businesses kind of struggle with that ability to reinvent themselves every time they hit a certain growth kind of stage.
Yeah, I think when we were at a smaller size in terms of team and structure and so forth, it was a lot easier to pivot and a lot easier to change, but you need to do that quickly in those early stages. But now it's starting to get to a point where to implement something, it takes a lot longer. And that's what I think is going to be the next real pain point and not issue. It's just going to be a roadblock that we have to try and figure out is, how do we make changes? And at one point our business might outgrow the people that we have, and it happens. And I've seen it happen with other businesses, and we just have to make sure that we're always thinking forward.
Yeah, what do you do with that? Because how do you manage that process where a person's no longer, especially when they're loyal and they move with you on the journey, but they're no longer good enough to take you further? How do you manage that?
I think luckily enough we haven't had that at this point in time, but it's something that I do fear because I don't know how to manage that. I'll figure it out, but I haven't come across that as of yet. But I've heard others that have, where they've they've become friends with someone, and 5 years down the track or 10 years down the track, they're just not the right fit anymore.
Yeah, you have to part ways, and what do you do? Because you're care about the person, you're loyal, and they've been loyal to you.
Yes.
And they helped you get to where you are, but now you have to say bye to them. It's there's a pain factor there.
There is. Yes.
And you've also gone down the multidisciplinary pathway as well.
That's right.
Yes. Going to expand into a whole bunch of other different services, or?
I hope so. So at the moment we have financial planning, we have a mortgage and finance division, and we have.
And it's all partnerships, right? They're not owned by you, but they're under you.
No, they're all under the same brand, and I have equity in all of them.
Got you.
Yes.
And that's why, and then you plan to increase the service offering.
Correct, but the equity of the accounting side is purely mine and my wife's.
The boss.
The real boss. I plan to really expand that side, and hopefully I can get to a position where when the accounting side is really tracking by itself, I still need to go there, but probably not as much, then I can really focus time on trying to grow and scale the other side as well, because it really gives our clients another unique factor. I know a lot of people do multidisciplinary firms, but at the same time, I think it's a great idea when we can just give them everything under one house. So we've got a general insurance side as well, and that's just started this year, and it's going quite well. And I'm quite excited to get these going as well.
Did you rely a lot on referral sources at all for your client acquisition?
At the start, yes.
So how do you, because when you bring it in-house, then you kind of cannibalize the referral sources as well. A little bit. How do you manage that?
We managed it through digital marketing, so we didn't.
Through not relying on the sources, yeah, that's what I thought.
So through not having to rely on external sources, but it's just this year again that we said, look, digital marketing, there's a cost to that, so let's focus on really getting our referral system humming and going as well. So if we can do both, then we de-risk again, in a sense that if digital marketing stops working for whatever reason it may be, then we still have a strong referral source through our clients, and that's what we want to do.
Got you. I'm conscious that you need to leave in 5 minutes because it's 5 o'clock.
Oh, I'm fine. Keep going. Yeah.
So I'm gonna wrap up with rapid fire questions.
Sure.
What's your favorite quote?
At the moment, it's don't tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do and let them surprise you with the results.
I literally read that today somewhere else.
Yeah, so that I've just been reading a book. It's Phil Knight from Shoe Dog, and he was the founder and creator of Nike, and it's just something that's really sticking in my mind at the moment. And I love it. Yeah.
Do you read books or listen to books, or do the Blinkist thing and read a summary?
I read. I like reading books. Yeah.
Are you a fast reader?
No.
Because I struggle now. Like my wife, she's a super fast reader, but because she's a lawyer, she just pause and like she can finish a book like that.
Yes.
I'm still reading that book like 2 months later.
Yeah. I used to be an audio book reader, and I used to put it on 1.5 times speed.
Yes,
and then I just noticed I just started going crazy listening to 1.5 speed. Chipmunks basically talking to me. So there's something nice about reading a hard paper.
Do you
book.
actively read? Like, do you highlight and then make notes?
No, I don't highlight or anything like that. But yeah, like some books, I'll go back and I'll try and read them again. Yeah.
Because like I try to do the active thing, like I highlight, the main salient points, which it takes even longer than to read a book. But then like I don't really go over it again. So I was thinking my next thing is I'm gonna try the Amazon Papermate.
Oh yeah.
So like the Kindle.
Yes.
Because you can highlight as you go, and then you can send you the notes.
Yes.
And it has another really cool thing. I don't know if it works in Australia, but it's called with Sync, so that you can read it, and then you can go on a run and you can listen to the audio version of it.
Right.
Wherever you left off on the paper one.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
Then wherever you left off on the audio one, you come back, and when you're reading at night, it takes you to that area again.
Yeah, wow. I might have to do that. Yes.
It's really cool. So I might invest in that, because like I'm the same as you. Like it's the other thing is I find over the years with nonfiction books, because I used to like devour them as well. Sometimes there's not many books that actually have a worthwhile message that requires a whole book for them. Like, it's usually you could probably summarize it in a white paper.
Yes.
Of about 5 to 10 pages, if not 1 page. So I know a few of my friends have moved on to like Blinkist or summaries, because it's it's a couple of decent points or really good points, but then there's a lot of waffle for the next 200 plus pages. So they just go for the main point, get summaries, and then basically can do 10 books in an afternoon instead of me reading my 1 book over 2 months.
Yeah, well, I might have to do that. It beats chipmunks talking in my ear.
Yes. Cool. What's the book that you absolutely love? Like the one that you've learned the most from, what's had the biggest impact on you?
Attrition by Gino Wickman. And I think
the number one.
That's my number one go-to. I will go back and read that and listen to that over and over again.
Really?
Yes.
I've never even come across that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a similar style or book to Scaling Up.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy this one a lot better. It's very simple to implement. It can be used for any business, and I highly recommend anyone that wants to try and grow and scale read Traction. It's
Is it different to eMyth though? Because like that was the whole eMyth concept, right?
To be honest,
I
haven't read the eMyth, to be honest.
Oh, you have to. It's the granddaddy of all these scaling and systemizing books.
Yeah. Okay. But
because that's the other thing I found is like the more you read of them, the more books you read, like the nonfiction ones.
Yes.
The more repetitive they are, because every person just wants to be, publish a book and be a thought lead and all of that sort of stuff. But they're just regurgitating the same stuff that was written 50 years ago, 30 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So there's like
maybe
there's
a
couple. Yeah, there's a couple of classics like the grandfathers that kind of started the whole thing, and then the rest is just someone just regurgitating the same thing, and but putting the name on it. That's kind of my impression of what's happened. Because there's only like when you have 8 billion people, there's only so many original ideas you can have.
That's right. I guess that's true. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if we had a population of 1 million or even 100 million, sure, like you can have a lot of new ideas, but it gets to kind of a point where it's like you don't really have that many original ideas left with so many people in the world. What have you bought recently that's had an impact on you?
That's had an impact on me. What have I bought recently?
Could be like a cheap thing, could be an expensive thing. Besides your amazing microphone.
This is an amazing microphone. I've upgraded my golf clubs. And
so you're a golfer?
Yeah, I'm a golfer.
You never mentioned that in your client acquisition strategy.
No. I love golf. I'm not amazing at it, but and the reason I brought this up is because I changed the shafts. It wasn't even the set of clubs. I changed the shafts on my golf club, and it's improved my game so much. And I just couldn't believe it. Like a minor 1% change in what I was doing has made such a big difference in my game.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Do you play with your wife or with friends?
No, she
or?
hates it. Absolutely hates it. And that's maybe a nice thing. Friends, for sure. Friends, colleagues. It might be a good thing so that we're not on the course together and we're not in the office together. And good for a little break. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. What is something most people don't know about you?
What is something people don't know about me? I am more of a business person than I think I was born a business person rather than an accountant. And when I was a kid, I would always try to find something, the next best thing to try and sell. So, in primary school, I'd already be trying to sell Pokemon cards or whatever it may be. And then in grade 8, I remember I was one of the stories I know a lot of people love is I used to go out fishing. I love fishing, and my parents had staff, all their cleaning staff, and I would go out. And one day I brought a mud crab home, and one of them wanted to buy it. So I thought, well, this is going to be a business, and I would go out and catch mud crabs and sell them to my parents every Thursday when payday was, and I knew they had cash, and I would go and do that. So
your parents' staff, basically.
Parents' staff, yes.
Okay. So your parents always ran a business as well?
Yes. So my mum and dad came from the Philippines, and they came from very poor families, and they've got an amazing story, which I'll have to tell you another time. But I learnt all of my business acumen from my dad. He wasn't your traditional businessman. He was a very hard and fast sort of business, and so I've adopted a lot of his work ethic. And that's what.
So you grew up in a business family.
Yes,
it helps. Yeah,
it does help.
What made you decide to become an accountant then? Instead of a mud crab seller?
To be honest, the accountant came along because my brother did it, and he's 4 years older than I am, and he started doing accounting, and he was starting uni doing accounting already. And I said, I'll give it a go at high school, and I was okay at it, and I actually enjoyed it. But the high school teacher at the time would let me know that it would get me into understanding more about businesses and how they work. I realized that a lot of great CEOs and business owners were originally accountants. Phil Knight from Nike. I was reading his book. I had no idea he's an accountant.
Yeah, I know. It's surprising how many are actually. Yeah,
and that's
because it's the fundamentals of business, right?
Yes, that's
knowing
right.
your numbers.
Exactly right.
I can't believe you had an accounting class in high school.
Yeah, we did.
Crazy.
We had an accounting class. Yeah.
Wow. How many? Were you the only one in it, or were there a few?
Oh no, there was a few. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a few in there. I didn't get.
Did your brother go into practice, or what is he doing now?
No, so my brother left the accounting industry a while ago. A good 8 years or 10 years ago, and he's now into IT. He's got a big BPO in the Philippines with about 120 staff or something like that.
Okay. Which you can probably utilize as well, that service.
Yeah, if we need to. We run separate. Yeah.
And it would have been handy to, I guess, have that resource of someone that's done what you were planning to do, which is grow the division as well.
That's right. Okay. Yes.
Last question. Who would you want to have a drink with the most in the world, past or present?
Tony Robbins.
What would you ask him?
Everything about the businesses that he's worked with and who he's advised and how he's taken them to the next level. I love the fact that he's a motivator and inspirational speaker and all those sort of things. But what I love about him most is the way he runs his businesses and businesses that he's part of. Yeah. So okay. I didn't think I'd ever be a Tony Robbins fan until I actually got to go there, and a lot of people it's a cult and so forth. But I'm like, the
jumping up and down kind of
the jumping up and down. But if you look in the background and what he's achieved and
it's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Yeah. And also, he's got to look, besides the back rubs that you have to give to each other and all that kind of bullshit.
Have you been to? Have you?
Yeah, I've been to some of his events, but I've read a lot of his books, and there used to be a time when I went through, every time I'd go for a walk, I'd listen to one of his audio kind of programs.
Sure. Yes.
Because they were really good reminders of the right mindset to maintain.
Yes.
And then that would be my morning walk, and I'd come back and I was all fired up. I'm like, cool, got to achieve this, got to achieve that, and it works, right? You've got someone reminding you. It's like having Tony Robbins in your ear, literally.
Yes.
Every single morning.
Yes.
going, hey, this is how you got to think about life. This is the perspective. So I found that really, really handy. So no, I'm a huge fan as well. Not a huge fan of like all the events because like 3 days of half of
Yeah.
it is jumping up and down and like back rubs, and the whole visualization and timeline thing that he does, which I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. You go along with it. It's fun. You feel like a bit of an idiot when you're jumping up and down, but and doing back rubs to people. Um, but the message and the mindset stuff, the energy he brings is well, the energy alone is phenomenal.
Yes. Agreed.
But yeah, the perspectives and mindset are transformational for sure.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Awesome, Ruben. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thanks, Michael.